Welcome to Leapcast. I'm your host, Dr. George James. Leap stands for leaders, entertainers, athletes, and performers. And I'm on a journey to connect with high achievers and highlight their unexamined human moments. Tune in to learn how these high-achieving Leap individuals were able to reach their greatest potential, face their most difficult challenges, and embrace the human moments that helped them along the way. If you want to get the episode highlights directly in your email, then head to theleapcast.com right now to subscribe. Well, welcome everybody. This is Leapcast once again with your host, Dr. George James, where we talk to leaders, entertainers, athletes, and performers. I'm excited to have our guest for today. It's actually I thought she was going to be my first, but actually maybe my second former student turned colleague turned I'm seeking out her for advice. Leeor Gal, thank you so much for joining me today on Leapcast. So first, welcome. How are you?
Thank you so much. What a wonderful introduction. Now I'm curious who the first former class.
Yes, I was really thinking about it, and another former student beat you out, but you were the first student from the master's program. I think the former student I had was from a postmaster's program. So different program. So you still get the first. So I'll still give you that. You get the first from the master's program. I've been fortunate to teach in a program for many years, and Leeor was one of my students. Phenomenal, curious, engaged, well-connected with her clients, and has gone on to just continue to just do amazing things, which is a part of why we're going to be talking today. So what we like to start off with is what we call our Leap story, and just to learn a little bit more about you and some of your early beginnings and some of your journey. So tell us, what is your part of your journey? What is your Leap story?
Awesome. Yeah. So first of all, I want to fully apologize if anybody can hear my dog barking in the background. I live in Philly as well. And so if anybody walks across our windows, it is not okay. So
all right, the dog's with us.
Full disclosure. Wow. So how did I start? I mean, I feel like my journey into the therapy world, which by the way, I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, was a little bit different than maybe what most people would think a trajectory towards becoming a therapist might be, because I started off not even thinking that I would ever be one, or not even thinking that I could ever be a therapist, actually. Where I got really lucky and I fell into a path that really, really worked out for me. But when I started undergrad, I was actually going for communications with a specialization in public relations.
Nice.
Yeah. So I've always, and I'm on social media now, and I do some videos on TikTok and Instagram.
Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about those. Don't worry, we're gonna get to that.
But I would say I started doing that. I mean, the videos and stuff when I was like young, but the whole marketing side of things, the whole business side of things, I've always been intrigued. I've always been interested in that. And that was sort of my path with PR, with marketing. And once I got out into the real world, I was just like, oh my gosh, like life is hard.
Yes.
And jobs are hard, and it's not so relaxed anymore. And people actually work from not only 9 to 5, but like 8 to 7. And I just
Right. Especially the more you own your own business, right? The more that you are in charge of what happens and how much you make, it usually means you're working more of those hours.
yes, and that's so true. And I think at the time I was working for somebody else, or I was working for other companies or I mean, when I graduated undergrad, I was working for big companies. It was not even for me. So I was just feeling so burnt out that one day I went to my doctor's appointment. And he was just like, well, why don't you just quit?
Like it's so easy.
Yeah, like it's so easy. Also, who are you to know what's going to be best for me? But I was 22 years old and I was full of dreams. And literally 30 minutes after that, I went back to work and I quit my job.
Well, maybe it is that easy.
Yeah. It is that easy. And because I had the privilege of moving back home with my parents, they allowed me to come back. If that was not the case, then I could not quit my job. But I did, and it was wonderful. I went back and I was like, you know what? I want to do something different.
Mm,
And I went back to school and I did prerequisites, or I finished my prerequisites. And originally I was doing it for occupational therapy.
okay. I was wondering what was your drive or thought about grad school, or if it was always therapy.
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, I was always, I mean, after what I went through after graduating undergrad with my own mental health, I realized I wanted to help people. That was my biggest drive. I got a job at a hospital. I was a physical therapy aide, and I was just like, wow, this is really fun. I really enjoy helping people. And I did all my prereqs, and I did fairly well, and I applied to all these schools, and I got waitlisted from all the schools, and it was really, really hard. And I ended up realizing I actually didn't even want to do it. it was it was a journey, which, by the way, those are my favorite clients that come to me and they're like, I don't know what I want to do with my life. And I'm like, take a seat. Nobody does.
Right.
Because it's a process of figuring out what works for you.
Been
And
there, done.
so yeah. And I was I was just like so defeated. And all of a sudden, therapy basically fell in my lap.
And it's interesting where therapy can do that. And for even on my own journey, I didn't think that that's what I wanted to do when I was in high school or even in undergrad, until the end of my sophomore year. And it fell in my lap in terms of thinking about what are the things I'm good at, what are, asking questions, thinking, praying, all those things got me to this place of recognizing it was therapy. And it sounds like you had your own journey that led you there. And I want to come back to that, but I want to go back even before all of this. Like, how were you growing up? Like, what are the things that you did or enjoyed that shaped you as a person, even before you got into thinking about communication, marketing, or even therapy?
Yeah, so I was not born in the United States.
Oh,
I was
where were
born
you
in,
born?
yeah, I was I was born in Israel.
That's what I thought. I
Yeah,
thought I thought
yeah,
you were born outside the U.S. So glad you confirmed that.
yeah. So my name Leor is like, I always tell people it's like a Jessica over here, where
Uh,
it is the most common name that somebody would have. So when I go to like a equivalent Starbucks when I'm in Israel, I feel so good to just say my name rather than here I have to be like Lee, because they're always gonna get it.
they always get it wrong, huh?
They always get it wrong. So yeah, so I moved here when I was 8, and of course, it was a really hard transition. I didn't speak English at all. I had to learn the language. I had to make all new friends. It was really, really difficult. And that's a part of. I have a lot of empathy for immigrants, for people that even at their own will are placed here, and or not at their own will, actually, I'd rather say. But it's it was really challenging. So
Yeah, I can imagine, what that was like, and how that shapes us, right? Like, I've shared often, my family is from Jamaica, and I was born in the States, but I spent time in Jamaica for kindergarten, first grade, and what that meant, like going between different cultures and figuring out identity. And similar to you, I have a heart for people from another country, people who have been displaced, people who have gone through hard times just trying to navigate, or even families where they might still be separate, some in one country versus another. And that often comes up in my work. There's so many people have connections to another country. I mean, it's just I think a lot of people. So I can hear that. And so you came to the US at 8, learned the language, realized you weren't Jessica anymore in terms of common. Uh, and then, so what was those early years that leading up into like undergrad? What were some of the things that shaped you or allowed you to be you.
Yeah. So one of my favorite classes in high school was media.
Mm.
And that was when we created music videos and commercials, and we had to edit them, we had to shoot them. We were the actors, or whatever. And that was my favorite class.
Nice.
And I've always made those like really embarrassing home videos where like it'd be like the Taylor Swift like oldies, and just acting with my sister, or like forcing my friends to do it, or my dog. And that was from like literally the age of 10. I was doing that. But in high school, I got to actually do that for a class, which was really, really exciting. And really, when I picked communications, I was actually going to go for broadcasting,
Nice.
which I realized after doing the morning announcements in my high school that it was a lot harder than they make it out to be. They're really good up there. They're the best of the best. And it's really hard to get there.
Hey, shout out to all the high school students doing morning announcements. I actually was one of those people. I started
Wow.
off behind the camera and then eventually started doing the morning announcements. So all those people out there doing high school announcements, or if you ever did, shout out to you, because as we know, it's not easy to do it.
It is absolutely, yep, it is not. I would stumble on my words. I mean, I'm stumbling right now, but you know what? It's okay, because
It is okay.
unless you're doing that for your job, stumble away.
And I think that's also part of what I've learned is that we grow in what we do and we develop, and even I've been fortunate to do some of the stuff over these years, and we're going to get into all the things that you've been doing, because I can hear the connections of what you used to do and how that has transpired to where you are in your career now, which I think is just so phenomenal, that some of those early years, some of those experiences growing up actually are part of, these are my words, your purpose, or even maybe your future. And I've seen that for me. As I mentioned, I used to do the morning news at my high school. And so being in front of the camera was starting at that part of my life and continued as I moved through my career. And I could hear some of that for you. Um, so so say more. So you're making these videos, you and Taylor Swift hanging out with your dog, your sister, and it sounds like you were just enjoying it and having the time of your life doing those videos.
Yeah, I have absolutely no shame to be on camera, to humiliate myself, to do something funny, to do something outrageous. I mean, not like Jackass, like those stunts.
Jump off of a tree.
Yeah, none of that, none of that. But to just act as a character is, I mean, I always loved it, and I love making people laugh, and I love helping people, and so yeah, I know we'll get to it, of course, but that's sort of what you know got me to do what I'm doing now with all my videos.
So you did that. Now remind me, and I don't know if I'm remembering this correctly. Did you do anything in the acting, modeling world before, like undergrad? Am I just
Yes,
remembering like everything?
George, yes, okay. I remember this class in grad school.
I remember some stuff.
All right, I'm not telling anybody where this is because I do not want people searching for this.
Do
But
not
yes,
just say
I did.
you are a veteran and have been in the business.
I did some modeling, we'll say that. Embarrassing. Nothing like crazy inappropriate. Like I don't want anybody
Right.
thinking
No, we're not
inappropriate.
going down that road. We're not saying she did anything, no magazines, no nudity, none of that.
No, no.
Just things that we do as young folks, where we get some opportunities that feel great at the time.
It did. It felt great at the time. And I will say I did some like Foreman Mills stuff, if anybody's familiar with that store. But this is when I was like 16, 18. And then my dreams were just crushed. I was just not cut out for the modeling world.
So how long did you try to model, or obviously you got some gigs, but how long did
Mhm.
you do that?
I did that until I started at Rutgers, and I was just like, Okay, I'm gonna focus on school now. Like my freshman year, I actually transferred into Rutgers. My freshman year, I went to a different school in New Jersey. I was just so bored that I was like, oh, I gotta like do something else. So I would go to New York all the time. I'd go to castings. I would go to, different things and trying to get my name out there. I was the second runner up. I'll never forget it. I don't even know if that's how you would say it, but um, to a Lifetime show or movie where I was this like 15-year-old pregnant girl, which was so cool that I got to
Yeah,
audition. I didn't get it. Um, but that was sort of where that ended for me.
it's all good, to all the models and actors out there. Look, I remember being on a go see where you just show up and you see what happens. It's a different way of saying audition, but you show up, you get your picture taken. Hopefully you look the way that they want you to look, or you fit whatever they want you to fit. And that is it. I remember standing in a line for probably over an hour just to get my picture taken, and that was it. Move on. So I'm assuming you had some of those experiences.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And at this age now, I will like I don't have the patience for it, and I'm so amazed by people that are so dedicated and they deserve any second of TV or ads that they should get.
Yeah, especially now in these days with people who are doing self tapes and doing it themselves, it's probably a little bit faster, but still the agony of having to wait.
Mhm.
And when you mentioned about the Lifetime movie, there was a point where I think I had, I got close, like, first refusal to like a Ford commercial, and then they went with someone else. I was like,
Oh,
so close. So I know those moments, but those things are things that build us, right? Like the ability to put yourself out there, to try different characters, to pivot. And it sounds like you went through undergrad and got a job, and then you pivot. You made the pivot, and then you went to learn how to be a therapist, and you've been out here in this world working as a therapist, doing this work. And I'm curious, what's that like for you as you are now doing this thing that you pivoted to? How has that experience been for you?
it's been incredible. And I I know it sounds like so cliche of I love what I do, but I'm so happy that this happened to me. I feel like I'm finally doing something that I'm not only like yes, I feel like I'm good at it, but is making a change, is helping people, is rewarding. And I just it's I don't know, it's a reminder that you can have all the plans in the world for your life, but things are going to change, and you're going to adapt and you're going to grow, and it can feel so validating.
I love that. And so have there been areas where that you've specialized in, or like how how did you start to pursue your own career after graduating?
Hmm. Yeah, so I've always worked at private practices. During our practicum in grad school, it was very similar to a private practice feel. I would say. I mean, you
No,
you were there.
it is. You do that, and you learn a way how to manage it on your own. Yeah.
Hmm. Which I really, really appreciated. I really enjoyed that, and I continued with that. And I had amazing experiences. I had some great supervisors. And as a therapist, it's so important to have good supervision as you go through, being an unlicensed clinician, but even licensed, and going through learning and experiencing and messing up as well and learning from it. Um, but it was all, yeah, it's been really great.
That's awesome. And we've been talking about this, but I really would love to hear your story of how you started to do more with social media, because I feel like on one level, I think you started, and maybe you had like 300 followers. Then I looked again and you had 1,000 followers, and I looked again, you had like 15,000. I mean, like, you've had this remarkable way of just developing your brand and your followers. And what I'm talking about is Instagram. On TikTok, you've been way above that. So tell me your interest in social media and how you've kind of used that.
Yeah, I think social media is a way to connect with people that, first of all, you wouldn't have ever had access to in the past, in the way that we do now. And it's also a way for, and this is my opinion, and this is sort of like my mission, my goal, is to show that therapists are also human beings.
Mhm.
That a lot of my videos show like therapists in between sessions, or like therapists outside of session, or what do they do? And it's not this whole like Sigmund Freud of, we're just psychoanalyzing everyone all the time, and like all we do is diagnose, where no, like we're human beings with feelings, with experiences, with transference, countertransference. And it's it I really appreciated just being able to normalize mental health, and also just like make it a little funny and not so serious.
And you've definitely been able to do that. And like you said, and that's a similar mission to myself in terms of I've always felt like therapy is not just about coming to an office and doing it within the four walls, but really trying to bring the therapy, the healing, the approach to people outside of that. That's why I've done a lot of public facing things. And there's something different about letting people know, like, oh yeah, you're a real person, right? Like I remember a client's like, if you weren't my therapist, I'd probably like want to have a beer with you, right? Like this thought of like, I really connect with you as a human being, as a person, not as this entity that I don't know how to connect with. And yes, there are those styles and they do what they do and it works for them, but that just wasn't, my thing. And it sounds like it hasn't been your thing either.
No, it hasn't. And that's the thing, is I think every client, every person needs a different approach. So, and I'm sure George, you relate to this. You're not gonna, you know, talk to X client the same as you would with B client, because everybody's different, and you can make one joke with someone and not the same joke with somebody else. And that's very valid. And so being able to also relate to a large community of people that are sitting there like, oh my gosh, like actually therapy is not so scary, or it can actually help me with this and that, and not just, if I have a quote unquote diagnosis. And that's really what's another thing that's so great about connecting in this way.
So what made you decide to try social media, like, or to venture out in that way?
So I would say with Instagram, I mean, I've always had Instagram, of course. I'm a millennial. I grew up, I think I was in college when it came out, maybe. And I always had Instagram. And I started Instagram. I started doing like those quotes, and it was always so hard for me. I'm always so amazed by people that just like think of something so like eloquent and articulate. And I'm just like, wow, that was never me. And one time my friend, she saw someone on TikTok, and she was like, hey, like this girl's a therapist and she makes content, like you should do that too. And I was like, oh, I don't know about that. And then I made my first video, and it got like 200,000 views.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, I guess I'm doing this now.
I found my spot.
Yep, yep. And I continued, and it went well.
And so where are you now? Tell me with your, I haven't checked up to date, but where are you with TikTok and your Instagram followers?
Yeah, so I think I have like 50 something, maybe 50 something thousand on or TikTok, and then I think like 18, 19 on thousand on Instagram. But recently with Instagram, I had one of my videos hit like, I think it's like maybe up to 8 million views right now,
That's amazing.
which, and it was the video of a therapist have it. Have you seen White Chicks?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So do you know that scene where he's lactose intolerant, he eats dairy, and he's like running to the bathroom because he's gonna explode. So it's that sound of him saying, "Move, bitch," and like pushing someone out of the way and like running to the bathroom. It was that video of me, and I think it said something like therapists during their 10-minute breaks between clients.
Yeah, if there's 10 minutes, right? Which, once again, I could understand, like, there's something about pulling the curtain back, right? Where people being able to see and understand, oh, you're human. You have to go to the bathroom too. You need to eat or drink. And then, making it funny and humorous that people can just really relate. And so that's really, awesome. And I guess so what's your favorite character that you've made in your videos?
So, all my friends, everyone knows my therapist character, which is always in a low bun with these like Fendi glasses on. And anytime I'm the therapist, that is my look, no matter what. And so I'll have this like sometimes I'll do like dialogues with, of course, myself as being the client and being the therapist, and that's usually my go-to character that I love doing.
And what's been maybe an interesting character or a character that um, is different even from the therapist character that you tend to do?
Oh, do you have anything in mind? I'm gonna have to think about this one.
No, I was just wondering, like, do you have any other favorites outside of your um, out of the therapist one that you might do?
I really like I just did one that was again it was a sound from Mean Girls, the movie, where I acted as Regina George, obviously during the burn book of her, ripping her and Lindsay Lohan's picture and taping it to the burn book. Um, and I sort of my therapist spin on it was, let's work on self-regulating through journaling. And so that's sort of which is kind of funny because people are like, how does that even relate? But I don't know. I made it work somehow.
Well, I think, like, it sounds like you are taking your creativity and your therapy and putting it together, and that you were just having just awesome times just making these videos. And it sounds like even from before, like, you realized that, like, I'm okay with, like, being interesting, funny, silly, and recording it and going from there. Part of what I've done over the past few years sometimes is with, former students, sometimes other people in the field, is that I've been able to kind of coach them and help them with what they're doing, whether it's thinking about their business stuff or whether it's thinking about their media presence or other things. And some of it is just helping people to realize it's okay, whatever you want to show, or the part of you that is feels authentic, you can put it out there. And it sounds like for you, you've been able to say, I don't have a problem being silly and having fun, and at the same time helping people while I do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And luckily people relate to that. And because of this community, I was able, to start my own private practice. It was going so well. I had a wait list and I decided to hire someone as well to help more people. And she's so incredible and so amazing. And she sort of is also really about relatability, and that's sort of the message that I'm trying to push out there, that therapists deserve to be relatable, they deserve to make mistakes, they deserve to um you know run businesses, be successful, of course, and be silly and funny and serious all at the same
All
time.
the time. Right. And that just because you might do a video that has a character and it's silly doesn't mean that you are a silly person. It just means like you can show your creativity, and that you are a business person, that you are, doing, phenomenal job. And I think that, you know, this also ties into, for those out there, probably respective of field, that you can build your brand and an audience And then from there, that opens up opportunities for you to do the work, right? That now you've been able to expand your practice because you built your audience and are still building the audience, which I think is really great and phenomenal that you've been able to do that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's hard, you know, it was never easy. What was easy was that I got to show up as myself. And I'm so grateful for that because I could never have been the type of therapist that wore, you know, khakis and a button down and asked you, how do you feel about that? No kidding. I'm really painting a picture.
No, but right for you, like once again, that didn't resonate or work for you, and you being able to show people that this is the way that I practice, and people say, well, because you were showing me how you practice, that makes me want to work with you. And then so many people want to work with you that you've created a need. Which once again, I think that's really great and fantastic that you've done that. So I'm curious, what are you working on now? Like what would you say are some of the top things that you're trying to do, whether in your practice or in business overall or just in life?
Oh, that is a loaded question. I have a million dreams. I have a million dreams. But I guess my next thing, well, this is not in the works whatsoever, but I would love, George, I'm always so fascinated by you being on the news, you know, doing those interviews. That is something, like I said, my broadcasting dream to be a part of that and just again educate on mental health. I mean, I've always been I I think maybe if you remember, I always liked speaking. And so speaking in front of people or you know even going to colleges and just explaining whether it's like sororities and fraternities but like explaining mental health and how you can have accessibility to it as well and in what ways, you know, not just in private practice but in more affordable ways as well. um I think I want to get the word out there more, and that's really my goal. With the practice right now, I'm a very future thinker, which is called anxiety. um,
It'd be great on some levels, especially with being able to produce more things. But go ahead, tell me
yeah,
about what you think.
actually, before I answer that to to what you just said, my partner and I were just talking about this because you know everybody has it. I think a lot of people, most people, nobody, you know, shoot
Yes,
me here, but I think a lot of people have anxiety. But it's how it shows up that's different in a lot of people. And
agree.
I'm the kind of person that I will just like jump into the deep end. And then once I'm in the deep end, I'm like, fuck.
I need to figure this out.
Yeah, okay, now I'm here, so I have to figure it out rather than like thinking it beforehand. I throw myself in there and then I'm like, oh my gosh, how did I just get here? But so yeah, so I because of that, I'm really working on grounding myself and thinking of one thing at a time. And right now, I'm thinking of one person, and I mean that's the other thing is I always want it to be a cool like supervisor or a cool boss or a cool owner. Not like in like the Google WeWork sense. But if anyone's watched that documentary, or not a documentary, I think it's a show, um, but in the sense of like you can always come to me. I'm open-minded. I want to give you the attention that you deserve. So that's really my goal for that right now.
So both of those I think are great, right? You know, personal and the brand, and then you know the overall business. I think that it sounds like from what you're doing that you built the audience, built your brand, and then you are slowly expanding. You're scaling to where you are, and then to meet whatever needs. And I think to those out there, when you're running your own thing, sometimes it can feel like we need to just scale and be the biggest, the baddest right away. And if so many people, if your dreams were to happen right away, you would be overwhelmed by it and you would implode. And lots of times it's the foundation, it's the structure that you need to build to have that. And so it sounds like that's what you're doing on the business side. Making sure the infrastructure is there, testing it out with someone, seeing what type of leader, boss you want to be, and then seeing how you might need to adjust that. On the other side, in terms of public speaking and media and news, I actually just got back from doing speaking in Miami, which was great. And before that, I was doing something
Ooh.
next. And I, I love doing those things where I'm able to take the principles of the work that we do to help people in different settings, whether it be on TV or whether it be a speaking engagement or a consultant. I love doing that. And like I said, that's also something I've been able to do for other people, is help coach them to figure out how to do that. So that's always a conversation you and I can always have about how to figure that out. And then for others, just the thought of what I've learned and continue to learn is that there's usually somebody who's walked the path before us that we can learn from. We just got to be willing to do that. We got to be willing to go and get the information and advice. Um, there's a lot of things that you can figure out on your own, which I figured out a lot on my own, thankfully. Some places that I just couldn't get to without that next help or support. So I know that you are probably someone who's figured out a lot on your own. You have been very great at doing that, and those things that you want to do, they're not that far, and I think that you could definitely have them as you move forward.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and it's encouraging. It's just important to have, like you said, a good team and people that you can rely on, people that you can ask for help. And I hope that I get to do that for other people in the future as well.
Well, you already started, and it is because of someone that you took on that really nudged us both to have this conversation, which is great, right? That's a part of having people with you on your team who believe in you and see something else and know of something and say, "Hey, you should probably do this." And that's how what got to where we are. And I've had people in my life that's done that. So, some questions I like to ask people as we kind of move forward is, who would you love to work with? Right. And this doesn't necessarily mean like as a client, but just if you could work with anyone, maybe collaborate on a project or do something with them, who would it be?
Oh, this is a great question. Like, is this in a dead or alive? Who do I want to talk
Oh,
to?
oh, it could be. I mean, it could be dead or alive. It could be folks who are alive now that, like, if I could work with that person, create something with that person, meet that person, whatever.
Oof. I mean, I used to always want to be on Ellen.
I,
I mean, now things are changing.
I know. I thought about that too, but hey, that's great.
So, George, we have a lot in common, I think.
I think we do.
I think we do. Um, but I don't know. I think I've always, who I really enjoy collaborating with, and this is maybe not so exciting to hear. It's not an Ellen exciting, but I really like to work with physicians.
Nice.
Yeah, sure, as clients as well, but also in a like the biopsychosocial way of, there's so many aspects to physical health, mental health, the interdisciplinary team, and working through that I think there's so much more to untap there. Especially because I am somebody that, and I still do struggle with health anxiety, that anytime I would go to the doctors, they would say, okay, well, nothing's wrong with you, so like maybe it's psychosomatic, and I would hate that. And so working on
My head.
it's not in my head. Yeah. So psychosomatic means that it basically means that your symptoms are real, but they are caused by anxiety. It's or depression, or whatever. But sort of educating and working with different clinicians, different physicians, and understanding that part of the brain and how that really affects us. I have such an interest in that.
I think that's great. And it's also good to know like your audience and who you're speaking to. And maybe that's part of it, right? Like people who, physicians or patients who might have those, health anxiety concerns, uh, they it might really resonate. Um, so no one else comes to mind that you might want to?
Maybe George James. 'Cause
Hey, I'm here. I'm glad I made the list. I made somebody's list.
you've always made the list. You're one of my favorite professors.
Well, I appreciate that, and look, I appreciate that. Um, as they say, don't forget the little people as you've gone on to do really great things. And I think that there's some of the things that you're talking about are definitely within reach and could further expand. And, that might be, like I said, another conversation you and I can have. But to think about, what are those dreams? What are those aspirations? And what does it take to get there? That's been a really big part for me in my life, of thinking about, one, not putting any limits, and really believing those things are possible. And I think that your work is showing that you believe those things are possible.
Yeah, and I think if we're looking at it from a also like a mental health perspective, my therapist hero, and this, maybe I didn't even think of this because I mean, I don't know why I thought Ellen would be even more realistic, but um Esther Perel.
Uh,
Wow. If I could meet her, if I can have a conversation with her, she is like therapy god. She's so
all right. Shout out to
amazing.
Pharrell. She's been doing amazing work for a long time. Uh,
Mhm.
well renowned. And I think, there's a connection to a connection to a connection. You never know. I think
Oof.
I think she's within reach. She's not far from here locally. So there are different ways. But all right, so that's good. All right, so now we have Ellen when she brings her show back. We have physicians, maybe throw me in somewhere, and then you got Esther Perel. All right, I like that lineup. So two things that I also like to ask folks is, how would you define mental wellness?
Mental wellness, I think, is being able to wake up in the morning and recognizing that the day is not going to be perfect. The day is going to have some downs, but the day should also have some ups, right? And that happiness is never the goal, but also below baseline, or understanding your baseline, is really important in achieving that mental stability, quote unquote. I mean, I'm doing air quotes here, um, where we find ways to take care of ourselves that doesn't necessarily match up with everybody else's way, because everybody is unique and everyone has their own way of self-care, right? That big buzzword.
Yeah, I love that. Being able to see the day, and not, sounds like, maybe not be overwhelmed by the day, knowing that the day will have its ups and downs, but it's going to be a good day, or that you'll be all right. Uh, I like that. And so, with that, what mental wellness advice would you give to your younger self? And that could be as young as yesterday or anytime in the past.
I've spoken about this in other podcasts, where also a big part of me, accomplishing these dreams right now, they never felt real when I was younger, because I was always told that I wasn't, good enough at things, or, even like in gym class, always like picked last because I wasn't athletic. Um, and really struggling with believing in myself and knowing that I can do things. I also, struggled with ADHD and a hard time in school, to now where none of that even really mattered.
Yeah.
In a way, of course, yeah, it shapes you, but also be kind to yourself, have self-compassion, recognize that, just because I'm not good at one thing, it doesn't mean that I'm not good at something else, or maybe I can practice at this and get better at this, and do something that actually matters to me rather than to everybody around me.
It's so interesting how the things that we feel from the world and other people and our family and even in ourselves, we put this pressure or can put this pressure on ourselves, and then we'll make decisions that it's not going to work or it can't work or it can't be us. So what I'm hearing is this thought of it matters, but it really doesn't. It 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 shapes us, but it's not as big of a deal as you recognize. You can still go out there and be amazing. You can still go out there and do your thing or be successful, however you define that. And so I think that's really great. You being able to share that. Leora, it's been great just having you, talking to you, catching up, talking through some of these things. I love what you've done in your work. I love what you've done for yourself. I love that you are exuding even more confidence in yourself and what you can offer others, and that you found the place or multiple ways to share your perspective through TikTok, through Instagram, through being yourself, to let people know therapy and being a therapist is is fun, is silly, is real. It's just another human being, and I think you've done a phenomenal job of doing that. So thanks for sharing. Any last words before we end?
Well, of course, thank you so much for having me. This was amazing. I still can't believe how much we actually have in common. But I guess for anyone that's curious, I'm the therapy gal on social media if you're looking for a good laugh. And yeah, I had a really great time, George. I really appreciate this.
Yeah, no, this is great. And I'm glad that you said that. That definitely was going to be a part of the notes, but please go out and check out the Therapy Gal. I love your play on words.
My last name's Gal, by the way.
Go out and check them out. Check those videos out. Let her know the videos you love and maybe the videos that really speak out to you. And I think also part of our conversation, if there are ways that you can grow in your career, find that person that can maybe be that coach, trainer, mentor for you so that you can get to where you need to. Leora, thanks again, and looking forward to collaborating and talking some more.
Awesome. Thank you.
Wow, what an incredible ride we just went on with another great member of the Leapcast community. I appreciate you listening and hope you got some tangible value from the episode. Please let us know what you think by leaving a comment, rating, and review. As always, please don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. This is Dr. George James, and I'll see you next time.